All right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA DFS video. We have a big 9-game slate here. Kind of a lot of news to touch on. We got some news that there's going to be Friday late nights or the Friday swap. We'll touch on that in a second here. We had some GPP winners. But first, let's just talk about the slate in general, and then we'll get into those other two pieces of news. So what are your initial thoughts for this slate? It's a 9-game slate that we have.
Yeah, I mean, first thought today was, oh, great, big slate, not a lot of value. Now we got a lot opening up, but I can't say I feel great about any of it. Still waiting on a little bit of news, but I mean, we're talking about playing guys like Moses Moody, Lonnie Walker, Dennis Schroeder. I mean, I don't know, man. There's a lot of value now, but I still feel like maybe I want to end up in the mid range more than anything. I'm almost glad they cut off the late games tonight, just because there's so many games here to deal with. But yeah, interesting slate, a lot of options. I don't know. I'm ready to dig in though.
Yeah. I do think it's worth calling out that DraftKings is going to be trying out. This is just a separate piece of news. DraftKings is going to be trying out no late slot on Friday, and to me, being Central Standard Time, I kind of like that because a lot of the times when there's slate breaking news, I might not be able to get to it. So I don't know. To me, that helps me. What are your kind of thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, it can go both ways, and we'll continue to talk about this through the week, especially on Friday. We'll really dig into strategy. But yeah, I mean, the good news is you don't have to stick by your computer and make swaps all night. The bad news is if you're someone who's been doing that, you kind of lose that edge. At the same time, I mean, there's a lot of people who think this is better for the casual player. But yeah, everyone's saying the same thing. As soon as that first zero comes in, because a guy in an 8 o'clock game with a 7 p.m. slate is out, everyone's going to be pissed asking for refunds. Another weird wrinkle too is there's actually a lot of sharks who play all DFS sports that kind of gave up on NBA because of all the late swap. A lot of them could come back. So I don't know. I know there's some people who think it's good for the casual player. Me personally, I don't love it. But I'm someone who only plays a handful of lineups and does late swap aggressively. And I'm also more on FanDuel, so maybe it drives more people over to FanDuel, which would be a good thing for me. I do tend to play both sites as often as I can, but yeah, man, there's definitely pros and cons. I don't think it's really going to be clear either way.
Maybe we start actually playing on Yahoo a little bit more because we always
Ooh.
get those values pop up. But the other piece of news is that we had a couple of GPP winners yesterday. So I'm going to pull this up here from the Occupy Fantasy Twitter here. A couple of big winners. We actually had 3 different people take down GPPs. Chuck, one of the hosts here, taking down one of them as well. So it seems like I'm pretty sure each month one of us hosts has taken down GPP, but awesome to see other members as well taking advantage of it. What was a pretty nice 4-game slate.
Yeah, I had some scores in the 400s in that $2.22 contest, but wasn't enough last night. I mean, there were so many good plays. You got to have the right combos. I know Scotty Barnes ended as one of the top scoring plays on the slate. I think Chuck and a few of these other guys had them in there too. I think Smitty too. He's on the MLB team. There he is. Shouts out to him. We'll be working MLB shows probably similar to this with him in a few weeks, but he's been crushing NBA, man, and he's always in that $2 contest with me. I don't always max it out. I know Smitty always does, but it's funny. I mean, he's in the top 100 constantly, using the model and using the lineup builder. So shouts out to the team, man. I mean, we've been crushing. We've had good results every day almost, and certainly yesterday where a lot of people did well, but you had to have the right combos. And look at this lineup here. Finney Smith, I mean, I said I didn't feel great about him, but yeah, that's why you got to max those contests, get some of those pivots in. But yeah, we were on a lot of these plays. Great night all around.
That was really the biggest difference maker. It seemed like was Finney Smith and a lot of ones where everyone was pretty much popping data wise, and it's just
Keegan Murray too was the other big play.
He was popping up data wise though too, so it was nice to see that people were able to take advantage of that. And honestly, for me, that's been like the annoyance, I guess, the last couple of weeks is I've been like 1 or 2 small pivots away from having really big nights. And I would say last night that was part of the case, but love to see that others were able to have an awesome night.
Absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into tonight. Just want to start with that, kind of some fun news there.
Yeah.
With Orlando, we got some news here. We'll start with them. So Jonathan Isaac is out, not too crazy, but we also know that Banchero is going to be out as well. So with that, all the guards are going to be healthy in this game. So I don't know if we can get to any of the guards. We do see Jalen Suggs is kind of popping up as a good play, but really the best play is going to be Wendell Carter. He's projected to get some ownership. Is he someone you're trying to get to today?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of good centers on the slate. I'll say that first and foremost. I do like Wendell Carter. We saw Goga start next to him last game. He kind of became a free square on DK at 3K flat, but against the Nets, they don't need to go as big. Obviously, Claxton's in there, but yeah, at his price, I think Carter looks solid here. And Isaac being out doesn't seem huge, but he does play at the 5 sometimes against smaller teams, so this should secure closer to 30 minutes for Wendell Carter Jr. here. And yeah, honestly, Banchero being out makes this game more competitive. It's a back-to-back for the Nets. I was concerned about the blowout going into today. Feel a little bit better about it now. I know Caleb Houston's getting the start, but more than anything, I think I'm going to be on Franz. Probably under-owned for what he should be able to do here. And I know you mentioned all the guards are healthy, but Suggs has been outperforming the rest. So I do really like Suggs as long as he stays reasonably owned. There's some chalky guard value on this slate, so I think his ownership stays down. Not the highest total here, but enough value to kind of consider a few of these options.
I'll say I'm with you there with Wagner. I feel like he is someone that should be higher owned than he currently is. 11%, probably not too much higher, like 15 to like 20%, but does feel like we're getting a slight edge there. The other big piece of injury news that we have today, I would say, in terms of like difference from what we've seen recently, would be that Karl Anthony Towns is out. And so with that, that's where we are gaining a lot of our initial value. A lot of people are going to be getting to Kyle Anderson, who's the chalk right now. You got Anthony Edwards, who feels like a very safe play. Rudy Gobert, who's not chalk, to me is very strange. But to your point, we do have a lot of good centers. And then Jaden McDaniels kind of chalk, Mike Conley kind of chalk. I want to hear your thoughts here. Like, where are you prioritizing or how are you prioritizing the plays for Minnesota tonight?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, Kyle Anderson's tough to get away from on DK at 4,700. We've just seen him have a really solid fantasy point per minute rate when he does get the extended run. When they're healthy, he hasn't been playing those minutes, which is why he's so cheap. But I do really like him here, especially on DK. I think you could play him even 1K more on FanDuel as well. He's fine. The thing with Rudy is he's questionable. So if he's in, I do imagine that ownership climbs. Not the best matchup against Wemby, but at the same time, I don't really think it's something you have to fear at his given price. So if Rudy's in and he's not that popular, definitely someone I'll come in over the field on. Mm-hmm. Edwards, you mentioned, excellent. There's not a ton of pay upside love on this slate, honestly, like talking 9K plus, and he does fit that bill. And then a guy I'm always playing is Mike Conley, and tonight he should actually see a little bit of extra usage. Again, never the highest ceiling for him, but on a slate where we have a lot of chalky guard value that feels kind of iffy, I like that Conley could maybe just kind of solidify a floor for you. But interestingly enough, he's very popular on FanDuel, more popular than I thought he would be. So as I'm saying this, I'm kind of pumping the brakes. Like, I thought Schroeder would be more popular. I know we just got Moses Moody's going to be starting for the Warriors. I want to keep an eye on his ownership, but I mean, as things stand right now, I don't mind him, but if he's going to be 30 plus on, I'm very happy to get away from there. But Anderson's excellent, especially on DK. If Gobert's in, he's great. And if Gobert's out, Naz Reid is going to be the chalk of all chalk and very tough to get away from. Ran into, like, what do you call it? It's not the backboard. It's like the floorboard behind the hoop last game. I don't know if you saw that injury. Looked terrible. Went to the locker room and came back out in the second half and actually played pretty well. So I'm a big fan of Naz Reid as an LSU basketball fan. If he does slide into that starting lineup here with Gobert out, he's probably going to be in 100% of my lineups.
I would argue that he's too low owned regardless.
Yeah, definitely.
So, and especially with multiple position eligibility there. But yeah, to your point, yeah, if we get news that Gobert's out as well, he becomes, I don't want to say the lock word, but he feels close to a lock.
Close.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here. Just trying to get into some comments here, and then we'll get
Knicks.
Yep. So I wanted to highlight Chuck's comment first.
Yes, please do.
He's gonna be playing more FanDuel tonight.
Let's go, Chuck.
Love that.
He's bored of winning on DK.
Right? It's not fun anymore.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, here we go. So we got news that Brunson and Hartenstein are going to be out tonight for New York. So that is a big piece of news. Obviously, the biggest question I have is, can Dante DiVincenzo finally have a good game? Because, wow, he has not been as good as he was in the, right before the All-Star break, kind of in a weird lull. Josh Hart has been someone that people have been more excited to play. Alec Burks is maybe someone looking at, or is Bogdanovich finally going to have a good game? What is your initial thoughts with this news?
My initial thoughts, it's funny, you rattled off like six Knicks, and the first guy who came to my mind is actually McBride if he starts at point guard.
All right.
I think he's going to be really solid value. Josh Hart was already going to look like a good play. I think he looks even better now, solidifies minutes in that front court. With Hartenstein out, Precious has been excellent. You've seen him playing more than 40 minutes per game. He was been down back into the 30s, but I think he could get back up over 40 here. So honestly, all the starters here look good to me, assuming McBride does start. DiVincenzo's still expensive. And yeah, he was on this ridiculous run, but we did see him go 5 for 10 from three last game, only played 31 minutes. I imagine he's going to have to play more than that here. So every single starter except for Jericho Sims I'm interested in. Don't mind Bojan or Burks off the bench as GPP pivots, but I could call McBride a priority if he starts. Hart is certainly a priority and probably my favorite play here from the Knicks. And I like Precious a lot as well. So I'll have Dante shares, but really, really do love Hart here. And then McBride is going to join all that other guard value and look excellent.
I'm wondering if this is a spot where, like Dante DiVincenzo, you mentioned he didn't play that many minutes last game. I'm wondering if he could play more, like if he gets close to 40.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, I love tips for DFS. I mean, there's so many coaches that play these long rotations. And say what you want about the guy as a real NBA coach, but for DFS, we know he doesn't like digging deep on the bench. Like, I don't think we're going to see much Daquan Jeffries or Jacob Toppin or whatever tonight. So when guys are ruled out, it just means the starters get more minutes. And while it's not a great matchup against the Pels, it should be a competitive game. There's a bunch of games on this slate with very wide spread, so I feel pretty good about targeting this one. So yeah, like I said, other than Sims, I mean, Sims does have some upside if you're playing 150. Not a play I'm going to get to, playing 20 to 30. But yeah, all these starters look great now.
And then kind of the other piece of news that we got, and we'll jump back kind of into the news portion, and then obviously we can touch on this once the data updates again. But the Warriors, you kind of mentioned them a little bit here. Andrew Wiggins is out, and then I don't know. Are we trying to get to Moses Moody, who's popping up a lot value-wise and just not too high owned on DraftKings? Is the minimum price? Is this, I guess, the best question, or the best way to phrase this question? Is this a lot like DeLon Wright last night, or is it a little bit more thin than that?
Yeah, it's less like DeLon Wright last night, I'll say, because DeLon Wright was their only guard. The situation here, I mean, Moody's starting next to Curry. You obviously have Clay and Pods, and Chris Paul's back tonight. He had a hand injury, so I don't know how limited he's going to be first game back. So yeah, as much as I like Moody because he is dirt cheap, when he does play 20 minutes, he usually hits value. But it's definitely not a DeLon Wright situation. I mean, Wright was going to do a ton of ball handling. We knew he'd have a very high usage rate as long as he was starting. He's kind of the third guard on the floor here starting for Golden State. So I'm proceeding with some caution on Moody. I'll mix him in, but there is a low floor for him, I will say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then other spots, it's, I don't know. We're still waiting on news for actually not too much. It feels like it's the news that we have that's coming in. We've already seen a bunch. Really, the biggest spot is going to be the Pelicans. Alvarado's still out. Daniels is still out. But McCollum and Zion are game time decisions. We don't know what's happening there. But that's really it in terms of news that we haven't gotten in a while. So are you fine just getting into guards right now?
Yeah. The one other thing, we did just get the Pelicans news. Zion is in, McCollum is out.
Okay. So let's touch on that. So is that just a spot where we instantly want to play a lot of Zion just due to the fact that he's going to get more usage, and then Brandon Ingram probably feels too cheap as well?
Yep, I love both, especially Zion. We're getting point Zion recently. His price is down on FanDuel, especially. He's back below 9K now for whatever reason, even though he's been playing the best basketball of his career. I don't get it. But yeah, I love Ingram now. We could also get to Trey Murphy, Herb Jones. Murphy, a little bit more inconsistent, maybe the higher floor than Jones, but both these guys look excellent. Going to have to play over 30 minutes. You could even mix in Hawkins here now. Not something I'm ever rushing to get to, but not only is McCollum out, but they don't have Dyson Daniels. They don't have Alvarado. So, yeah, I mean, he's one of the only true guards on this team as far as ball handlers. So I do really like Hawkins. I really like this game now. And before we started this stream like 15 minutes ago, I wasn't all that interested. But the Knicks look excellent here. The Pels look excellent here. Should be competitive. And Zion's definitely a priority for me.
Yeah, and to your point, like Hawkins on FanDuel as well just seems to really stand out. I'm wondering how chalky he'll become because that it should be a lot of chalk. Like even if he gets 20 minutes, he's 3.9. So like that just feels way too cheap to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so with that, obviously we're going to let the data refresh here, and I'm actually going to give it a refresh. Let's see if we have any more comments coming in as well. Let's see. My volume is low.
It was for a second. I think you're good now, but
Interesting. Yeah, let me know in the chat, guys, if it's still low. I can raise up the mic too here. I don't know. That should probably be helping a little bit, but that's strange. Hawkins so bad last time. Yeah, I mean that's kind of him. He's a little bit shot dependent there as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the guards here, just in general. So payups. It's low still. Interesting. I'm gonna let you take this. I'm just gonna unplug my mic and plug it back in.
Okay, so we're talking pay up guards, right? I mean, let me refresh my data too, just so I can kind of scroll through over here. But yeah, so it's interesting. We have some good pay ups tonight. They're all going to be low owned though because we have so much value at guard. We got Lucas sub 5%, very very tough to get to. DeJounte Murray is the chalk, and it's for good reason. Obviously, he sees a major increase in usage with Trae Young off the floor. He is priced up on both sides, but still sub 9K. I think over these next few weeks with Trae out, that price is going to continue to climb. Excellent matchup here as well against the Utah Jazz, so really tough to get away from him. I think he's the one guy I'm going to be paying up for a lot, but the field is kind of with me on that. If you consider Anthony Edwards a guard, I also think he's worth getting to. I was going to talk about him when we got the forwards, but really, I mean, when you're sorting by OF index, we have Luka, Mitchell, Curry, Lillard. Like all these guys are low owned, and whenever you have players with that type of upside, they're worth mixing into your tournament lineups. I can't really call any priorities for me here other than Murray. But yeah, I'll try to get to a few shares of each of these guys. I really, really do like Murray, though, obviously. But yeah, I mean, some of the best value on the slate is going to be a guard. This is my chair clicking.
I was just working on the mic. It should be pretty much good here. I'm just trying to get the audio back in my headphones now. So give me 1 second here. So
no, you're good. I'll keep talking. But yeah, I mean, if we're sorting by like ownership, Murray's the most popular player on the slate. He's tough to get away from, though. I mean, he's been great even in tougher matchups. I think the Conley chalk is going to go away now with some of this value opening up. Bogdan Bogdanovic for the Hawks is very interesting. Obviously, he's a guy who should benefit here, but if we're looking at his recent games, he's been pretty poor shooting the ball. So I'm proceeding with caution on that one, depending on ownership. If he becomes low owned suddenly, I'm going to get a lot of him, but if he stays popular, I'm going to try to come in under the field. We'll talk about more of these Hawks when we get to forward, but I trust Murray the most here. Bogdan, if he stays 30% owned, I'm very comfortable pivoting. There's a lot of good plays in that range. And yeah, I think the Bulls are worth targeting here as well in the backcourt. AO still cheap on both sides. Definitely prefer him over Caruso. But if he suddenly gets popular, I can see Caruso as a pivot. But Donsumu looks excellent. And then, yeah, the Utah guards as well. Really like Keontae George here, hoping he gets a few more minutes. The minutes spread for this backcourt's been pretty inconsistent, but I think they're all worth considering, including Clarkson off the bench.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me better or not? I did raise up the volume. I'm wondering. I'm curious.
You sound good to me, but I have ear pods in, so.
Yeah. It honestly might have been, I don't know. I had my headphones plugged into my mic. Sometimes that does some weird stuff. So guys, let me know. It should be better now. I'm assuming I raised up the volume, but we'll see.
You sound good to me. I don't know what's wrong.
That is strange. My mic is unchanged. You know, I'm just going to give it one more test here.
All right.
Much higher now. This is much higher. It should be much higher.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point it is. You sound good to me, man. I don't know.
That's
it's still
strange.
Quiet. What the hell?
That is very strange.
Maybe the input changed since I produced yesterday. I don't know. If you go to settings.
That could be, but
like your levels are showing. Welcome to Tech Hour with Occupy Fantasy.
Wait, I think now it might be too loud now. I'm actually very curious because it should be better now.
It sounds good to me. You sound better now, but it was okay for me before.
I took off the noise canceling, but whatever.
Oh yeah, that's it, dude. The noise canceling ruins it, I think.
Yeah. Whatever.
Good guys, can we get some confirmation here?
I'm so sorry. This is
No, it's not your fault.
yeah. It should be better now.
We're good.
All right. So no, yeah, to your point, I do think Utah, those plays are fine. Chicago guards are fine as well. Yeah, it's still the same. That's weird. Apologies, guys. Maybe Nick, do you want to try turning down your mic a little bit?
I don't even know. I'm just an ear pod, so I don't even know how I would do that.
Yeah, I don't know. That's strange.
What the heck? So I'll stop moving my chair. I'm going to freeze here. Hopefully that helps resolve something. I don't know what the problem is, guys. This is frustrating. But yeah, I don't know. I talked nonstop about guards for a few minutes there. I mean, there's a lot to like on the slate. I don't know if we just want to try to continue or what.
Yeah, we can try to continue. I'll try to just speak louder into the mic. I don't know if that's going to do anything. I think it's just the system, to be honest. Kind of is what it is. But yeah, we'll move on into forwards here. I know you talked about the guards pretty much in depth as much as we would need. So looking at the chalk, it is going to be probably Minnesota now. Kyle Anderson still chalk, Edwards still chalk, but we also are going to get a little bit of Zion chalk and also Brandon Ingram chalk. Like, are you kind of just fine loading up on those plays, or do you think we should still maybe get to some of these other plays as well?
Yeah, there's still a few pivots I really like. DeAndre Hunter might be coming off the bench, but regardless, he's someone I want to get to. Been playing really well, and his minutes are slowly ticking up. I want to be ahead of the field on that one. But yeah, I mean, Zion's pretty much unavoidable now. And what else we got here? I mean, I like Kyle Anderson. I will say I don't trust Jaden McDaniels if he's going to start drawing ownership. Just super inconsistent, even when he is getting minutes. But yeah, it's mostly chalk. I mean, I'm glad we don't have to really worry about Washington as much now with some of these other options opening up. But yeah, it's mostly chalk here. Love Zion. Really like the Atlanta guys, especially Hunter, if he's going to be lower owned than the others.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Looking at the OF index, I do think it's worth calling out. Like, Josh Hart is already one of the better plays. And then from there, it's like a big jump in terms of like players we want to be going out of our way to roster. So like maybe Bay a little bit to your point in terms of like Atlanta plays, but it really seems kind of balanced in terms of the pay up plays.
Yeah, it's definitely balanced. I will say Giannis, sub 10% makes sense if you can get to him. Really tough for me to want to prioritize him here, though. Wemby, his price is down a bit. Obviously, this isn't a matchup where you usually want to target bigs, but he's shown he's kind of matchup proof. And with his price down on FanDuel, I don't mind going there. If Gobert's out, you have no Gobert or Cat, that matchup becomes very, very different than what it's going to look like on paper. But yeah, man, I'm with you. I mean, I think where you get different tonight is maybe guard and center. The forwards are really tough to avoid. And I say guard, but I don't want to avoid DeJounte Murray. Don't get that twisted. But yeah, I really like Kyle Anderson. I really, really, really like Zion. And then one other I'll bring up who's probably lower owned than he should be is Franz Wagner for Orlando. Again, no Banchero. For whatever reason, no one really seems to be getting to him, but I do like him here as well.
Just real quickly, guys, I did lower down the mic for Nick, so I think our volume levels should be about the same, just as an FYI. So if it is so quiet, you might be good to raise up the volume. I don't want to hurt anyone's ears, but
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, it's whatever.
My clicking chair too.
Curry, I'm just getting some questions. So Curry at 9.2 feels overdue. Maybe, I mean, Wiggins being out doesn't really change too much for me. Is he someone you're trying to get to?
I don't mind him. I definitely could see getting a few shares. I mean, what better matchup than playing against the Wizards? So yeah, if there's ever a get right spot for Curry at low ownership, I don't mind getting to him here. I kind of feel the same about a lot of guards in that range. I mean, Lillard's another one I like. But yeah, Curry definitely fits the mold of a high upside play that's probably lower owned than he should be.
Perfect. And then we did get a question about, is Rudy Gobert out? I don't think we got that news. I just refreshed it on my end. He still is a game time decision. If he plays, we like him against San Antonio. I mean, he probably becomes one of the best plays. If he sits, then Reed is literally the best play probably. But that's news we're waiting on. And so going back to the late swap on Friday stuff, that's a weird part of that move that they're going to do, because that's a lot of game theory that goes into it, and that's why we're going to be touching on that probably tomorrow Thursday and Friday coming up to that. So I do think that'll be worthwhile. I'll let you take this question mostly because I don't want to butcher the last name. I really need to look up some highlights to get his name right. But
yeah, Micic.
Yes.
I think it's Micic, but yeah, I don't hate him, but here's the thing. I mean, there's just so much good value at guard now. We have McBride, assuming he starts. I don't mind going to Schroeder because we have no Cam Thomas. Obviously, Dinwiddie's gone. No Ben Simmons either. And all he does seem to love Dennis Smith Jr. Jalen Suggs is probably too cheap. I mean, there's just a lot of good guard value tonight. So if you're playing a bunch of lineups, I don't mind mixing him in. He has looked good when he's gotten the minutes, but there are safer value plays at guard. So feel free to mix him in, but don't let him kind of decide your night.
Yeah. Let's see here. So we got a question: Reed or Carter tonight? I would say Carter right now, but if we get that news that Rudy Gobert is also out, then it's just Reed. That's pretty easy. You could probably get away with playing both of them. I don't know if we need to do that tonight, but that'd probably be a way to get a little bit unique playing two centers. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I totally agree. It's Carter for now. Reed looks good, but it's definitely Carter for now. And then if Gobert's out, it's Reed. I mean, the issue is the Orlando game does lock at 7, so we may not have that news. The safe plays Carter if you want to play it safe.
Yeah. So with that, let's go ahead and jump on into the center plays that we are getting tonight. We did have Tom confirming that the volume seems to be sounding good right now. I did have the Occupy Fantasy Discord pulled up, and I was in it yesterday, so I'm wondering if that's what was causing the mic issues. You know, two inputs there.
I also produced yesterday, which is always a wild card. So
let's see. But I'm glad it's good right now. Looking at the center plays, we kind of just mentioned some that we could be on. Reed, Gobert if he's active. Carter is the chalk right now, but we also have Vucevic going against Detroit. Strangely enough, he is power forward eligible on DraftKings, not on FanDuel, and he opens up a lot of flexibility there. Kyle Kuzma, decent play, I would say as well at his price tag. Porzingis. I mean, all these plays that are popping up ownership-wise, I feel like are correct. Do you see any mistakes ownership-wise, whether that be too much or too little?
There's two guys that are too low owned, in my opinion. John Collins for Utah against Atlanta and Jared Allen for Cleveland against Dallas. So even with Cleveland getting healthy, Allen's been excellent. Dallas's front court obviously improved at the trade deadline, but not to the point that it's a spot you want to avoid. I think he's too cheap on both sites. Better on DK, but you can play him at power forward on FanDuel, which makes it very appealing. Then the other one's John Collins, another guy with power forward eligibility. He's been starting at center, and yeah, some revenge here. Don't want to dive into that too deeply, but just a great matchup, very high total against the crowd he used to play in front of. So plenty of reason to like Collins here at a reasonable price. Again, just a little bit too cheap.
Is this his first time back? I'm trying to scroll through his game log. It might be his first time back in Atlanta.
I'm not sure. And I liked him regardless, just in the high total matchup starting at center. But yeah, just another reason to like him here. And not very popular. I know everyone wants to play the Jordan Poole revenge tonight. I think the Collins revenge is more appealing to me.
Yeah, you got one guy that's actually a good basketball player in John Collins.
Poole's been suddenly shooting well. I don't know what's going on, man.
Yeah. The bench narrative, it's working. But I do want to get your thoughts on Evan Mobley, because to me, I'm kind of, at least before the news broke, I was kind of wanting to play one of Mobley or Jared Allen, whichever one was going to be lower owned, because I think both of them have a 40-point ceiling upside tonight against Dallas, and just trying to get. They're the same price is the point. So, or basically the same price. I like playing one of them in my builds to get 40 points. I don't know. Do you favor one or the other, or is it just whichever one?
Yeah, I mean, I favor if the ownership gap was wider, I could see getting to more Mobley. But I do favor Allen just because his minutes per game are higher right now by 5 to 6 minutes. Just consistently playing 34 plus, where that's the ceiling for Mobley in terms of minutes. And that's enough for me to just prefer Allen as long as they're going to be similarly owned. But yeah, I mean, if suddenly Allen were to be chalk, then Mobley would be a very, very logical pivot. They have similar upside. Mobley is a little bit cheaper. But for me, where you're not really getting a ton of leverage, I do prefer Allen of the two.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Any love for Wemby, who's finally starting to get priced up enough? And this is a little bit of a caveat if Rudy Gobert is out, because I think that just becomes a much, much better matchup for him.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, he has some upside if he's low owned, just kind of similar to those guards we were talking about. Whenever you get upside for low ownership, it makes sense in large field high risk contests. But if Rudy is out, I mean, yes, absolutely. He looks
Yeah.
even better. On paper, I think projections have him a little bit lower today because of the matchup, but he's shown that he can do really well. I mean, the Lakers' front court defense is really solid. He had his best game of the year against them, where he went for 5 and 5 steals and blocks. So who's to say he doesn't just have a really good game defensively? But yeah, I like Wemby. I mean, he's not a priority for me. I can't say he is, but at the same time, I mean, he is someone I'd love to get a few shares of if I can, especially if Gobert's out.
Yeah, that's fair. I think we go ahead and do a little bit of a first look build here. I'm just going to refresh the data, and then if anyone has any questions coming in, we can answer those pretty much at the end here. So with all that news that we got, like, who do you see as the starting points tonight? Because value-wise, it's not as much in terms of like Ingram or Zion as I thought it would have been, but like I would have thought I wanted to be on one of those two. Are you there, or do you want to play DeJounte, who's chalk, Edwards? Like I'm kind of fine. I'm putting the ball in your court.
The two pay-ups, if you want to call them pay-ups, for me are Murray and Zion. I like Edwards a lot, but he's probably third if I'm ranking them. And I know maybe the data's starting to catch up, but yeah, I really, really love Murray here. I don't want to get away from that. That's my favorite game to target. And then, again, Zion probably running a lot of point tonight.
Yeah.
Going to be tough for me to get away from that.
Yeah, I'm right there with you with Zion specifically. With DeJounte, I'm finding the chalk there. Can Maxey, can Irving, can Lillard go off at around the same price point for sure? But might as well just eat the chalk for that matchup. After that, like, do you want to eat the chalk with Kyle Anderson? He does feel too cheap, specifically on DraftKings.
Yeah, I think you kind of have to. Yeah. And it's just, he does everything when he's on the floor. A little bit of extra usage goes a long way for a player like him. So, yeah, I do like Anderson here, assuming he starts.
And just while we have him pulled up, is he a little bit too thin on FanDuel, or is it just he's going to get a couple extra minutes, probably going to get a block or a steal, so it's that the price difference is fine?
Yeah, I still like him on FanDuel, but I think there's a lot of good pivots. Like, he's definitely not the same priority, and at 40%, I do think he's overowned, so you're right. I mentioned earlier Hunter is a play who I prefer. He's only 300 more or 400 more. Yeah, I'm very comfortable pivoting away from Anderson on FanDuel. On DK, where he's 1K cheaper, it's terrifying. So on DK, just play him. On FanDuel, I think you could get away from him. But if you're landing on him, like, it's not that I don't like him. I just think 40% is too high where he's pushing 6K. Like, you want 40-plus points, which is probably not going to be there for him. But on DK, you need, like, 30-plus. So very, very different.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. The best value is Moody and then McDaniels. Do you feel the need to play either of those two?
If I'm picking between the two, it's Moody. I just hate playing McDaniels because he's kind of defense first. Kind of similar to like a Matisse Thybulle almost. Like, it's so rare we get ceiling games from him. So if we want to use a punt, I guess it's Moody. Shamet looks pretty good too, as long as he's starting here. Again, no Denny Avila there, which obviously creates a big vacuum for usage. But yeah, I mean, if you want to use one of these punts, I'd go with Rudy.
I don't think I do, but
don't.
Okay. I was wondering if you did. I think the next move would probably be, and I don't know if you agree, would be chasing some of the New York plays. I know you said you like Precious a decent amount, but we got Josh Hart and DiVincenzo. I guess, which do you like, all of them or two of them or one of them? I guess, do you see any of those three as a priority?
Hart's my favorite. I really do like Hart. And then McBride, it looks like the data hasn't quite caught up on him yet, but he'd probably be second for me. A little bit more expensive than I wanted him to be, but I'd be fine playing those two.
Does that change if he's not confirmed starting?
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. I think he will. Because otherwise they're going to have to go to Dante as the starter? I don't think they're going to do that at point.
They might. I mean, I
know the Bucks used to do it, but I don't know if Tibbs is willing.
Yeah. With that, I guess if Dante is starting, would that make him even more appealing?
Yeah, I mean, Dante's going to start. It's just if he's starting at point guard, I mean, he'd be more appealing. Not usually a guy who has a ton of assists, but just the extra usage, again, it helps everyone. But yeah, I don't mind Dante. I definitely think he is upside. We've seen some huge games out of him with Brunson out. But as far as value goes, I do trust McBride maybe more than the field does right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I put him in there. So we got center, guard, and utility left. About 5.6 on average left over. Is there a center that you are really trying to prioritize? We got Wemby, we got Vooch, Kuzma a little bit. We could play Jared Allen, Precious, and then we got the Wendell Carter chalk we could potentially eat, or Reed/Gobert.
I mean, I really like Allen, but I think if given what we have left point per dollar, Carter's probably the logical play.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's fair. And honestly, I do like the ability to be able to pivot to Reed if Rudy Gobert's out.
If we get that news, yeah.
Yeah. And then from there, so we got about 5.8 left over. We could go value. We could go fair and balance. McConnell was originally a great play. Maybe not someone we exactly need to get to. We got AO as well at that same price tag. We could probably just play both of those two and be done. But kind of what are your thoughts? We got Keontae George there.
I love the AO price against Detroit. I'm definitely comfortable going there. I don't know how they haven't risen his price. I mean, he looks really good to me if you want to click him.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Getting a lot of minutes. 6.2 left over. I was wondering, is that John Collins? Or
we're 100 off.
Oh, man. That would have felt good right there.
I mean, is Shamet cheaper than McBride? Or are they the same?
He might. I think he's a little bit cheaper.
I mean, that might be the pick. If we go Shamet instead of McBride, we could get John Collins. I don't mind that. I do think McBride's safer than Landry, but I don't know. That's a pretty solid build.
Yeah, they're about even. I think that is pretty darn solid. So, pretty good first look build. Let's go ahead and jump back into some questions then. Is Lopez in play? Kind of. I feel like he's always in play GPP-wise. I will say today he's not popping up as much data-wise as he typically is randomly, but good matchup against Charlotte. Is he someone you're getting to at all?
Yeah, he's fine. He's tough for me to prioritize or his price, but I mean, if you're landing on him, sure. If I'm only playing one lineup, it probably wouldn't have Brook Lopez, but yeah, if you're someone who plays a bunch, I think he's worth mixing in at very, very, very low ownership.
Then we got a couple of questions here from Emma, so let's answer those. Jalen Johnson or Brandon Ingram?
I lean Ingram just because so many guys are out there. He played 38 minutes last game, coming off a couple of games of rest. So, yeah, I do lean Ingram. I do like Johnson at low ownership, but Ingram just feels way safer right now.
Yeah, I will say, especially if Ingram still stays lower owned, then like I think he should be 20. Like if that doesn't climb, I would say easily Ingram as well. And then the other question was Hart or John Collins. So that's tough.
I love both. I'm going to go Hart slightly. I just think he has a bit higher of a ceiling.
Mm-hmm. And right now, the data is agreeing as well. I mean, the biggest reason why I would say I like John Collins tonight is one, he's still a little bit too cheap, but it is that revenge narrative that you mentioned that makes him a little bit more appealing. And then thoughts on Jordan Hawkins.
If he were to suddenly start, I'd absolutely love him here. I like him as a tournament play off the bench. Keep it on the ownership. I don't imagine he gets too popular. But yeah, they're just so thin at guard. Not only is CJ out, but they have no Dyson, no Alvarado. He's probably going to have to play 25 or so minutes here. So keep an eye on the lineup, keep an eye on the data. But I like him. It's just he's not 100% safe. I think McBride's safer if he starts and they're in the same game. So it's very easy to pivot there.
Exactly. We got a question from Peter saying, what about Jalen Suggs? So I know you mentioned him earlier, so I'll let you go ahead and take that.
Yeah, honestly, at his ownership, probably one of my favorite Magic players. Not the best game on the slate, very low total. Like, we don't see 210s very often anymore in the NBA, so not the most appealing spot here. But, yeah, he's just been outproducing all the other guys in this backcourt. No Banchero is going to create a lot of extra usage here, and the Nets' defense hasn't been great, especially with Simmons out. So, plenty of reasons to like Suggs. Probably doesn't even get to 30 minutes, but his point-per-minute rate's been so high that I do think he could exceed value here pretty easily on both sides. So I like Suggs a lot.
I will say I don't know. I feel like I disagree. I don't know. I just
go for it, man. Hey,
just because like pricing wise, like we're either paying up for the studs that are there or we're trying to pay down for some of that's, I guess, spotty value, but the value that's out there, Jaden McDaniels, Shamet, Moody, I'd rather go that route than mess around with a play like Suggs, if that makes sense. Like I don't know. I haven't ended up there today as
I
well.
feel
So
you.
yeah.
I will say McDaniels feels way sketchier than Suggs to me, but
Yeah, but pricing.
yeah, that's true.
So
Fair enough.
yeah. But yeah, definitely not a great play either, but too cheap. Let's see here. So Nas Reed starting question mark. I don't think we've had it confirmed. I think the expectation is Mike Conley, Edwards, McDaniels, Anderson. And then if we get news that Gobert's out, then it would be Reed. But I'm still seeing that Gobert is still a game time decision. He did sit out the last game, so got to see what happens there.
Mm-hmm.
And then thoughts on Corey Kispert.
Yeah, it's really tough to project who they're going to start here. Poole's been coming off the bench and playing a lot better. Could he slide into the starting lineup with Denny out? Maybe. But yeah, you can mix Kispert in. I think he's fine. He was questionable all day, so maybe he's not 100%. Yeah. Doesn't usually play more than 24 minutes, but he's been shooting the ball outstanding. So fine to mix him in, but kind of similar to who did we just get asked about? Hawkins, I like his upside at his price, but I can't say he's like a super safe player or anything. But in large field contests, you need to take some risks. So yeah, feel free to mix in Kispert.
And I just real quickly while we're on them, the Badger bias to me, Johnny Davis, min price almost on both sites, could start tonight. We haven't projected to get 18 minutes. I would want to see more than that, but someone that could be in play GPP wise, I don't think we need to get there, but maybe decent. But obviously Kispert's much safer with upside there as well. I don't know if we have any more questions here, so we'll just go ahead and get into the closing thoughts for tonight's slate. So do you have any closing thoughts for tonight's slate?
Yeah, I think the ownership's very fluid right now. Like, things are changing quickly. Like, Moody wasn't going to be too popular. It looks like he is on DK. So just kind of pick your spots. Obviously, that Gobert news is massive. Just have a plan in place if you're going to have to pivot off of him. It's very easy to go down to Nas Reed. Just make sure you have something you can upgrade with that extra salary if that's how things shake out. You could play Nas Reed even if Gobert's in. So feel free to just use him there. But, yeah, it's very interesting tonight. A lot of wide spreads. Obviously, we're not in the business of predicting blowouts, but I know personally I'm really going to be loading up on this Jazz-Hawks game on both sides of the ball there, just really hoping that one goes off.
That makes sense. And just looking at kind of sorting it by ownership, it's crazy how many of the games are like 13 or double-digit spreads, I should just say. So that's insane there. Couple of quick questions, and I'll just rapid fire them. Bogdanovich or Bay on FanDuel? I would Bogdanovich.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's got to be Bogdanovich. I don't mind Bay, but Bogdan just has a much higher ceiling.
And then, yeah, I don't know. We're just running out of time with this one, Emma. So
I haven't looked at the late games. Yeah, I haven't looked yet. But, yeah, if you do have a subscription, the model will have the late data in there, though. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for us today, guys. Going to be here again, same time tomorrow. Jump on into the Discord chat right now. Link to that is going to be in the description below. Thank you guys for being here, and good luck tonight.
Take care, everyone.